Good afternoon from the Sussex Downs in the UK, where things seem to be going back to normal. As the lockdown eases, the bandwidth tightens and everyone gets busy again. We have Mediterranean weather here in the UK. I'm in my studio, very hot, surrounded by lights, but that might be making me hot. But what's making me hot even more is my wonderful guest today, the one and only Brian Solis. How are you, Brian?
I'm hot just watching you on my screen.
I felt it.
It's a pleasure to be here. The last time I saw you was probably in some exotic country somewhere around the world, with champagne in hand, living life.
Yeah, well, I did a webinar earlier where someone said that we had a jet-setting life, and I said, well, it might have looked like that, but there was a lot of hard work involved as well as the champagne, So conferences are gone. I've lost a major revenue stream. I know you have several ways of making money. I don't know how best to describe you as an author, as a marketeer, as a speaker. What would you describe yourself as?
I think first and foremost, I was an analyst, and I studied how disruptive technologies were impacting markets, businesses, societies, and then I would use that research to, as a speaker, as an author, as an author of reports and books, and then also as an advisor to companies around the world to help them sort of navigate what at the time was digital disruption, sort of pre-pandemic, and now it's sort of advising organizations to think differently about digital, not just to transform or to become digital, but to actually innovate in what is essentially what I call a novel economy, which is a new and unusual economy that is reshaping the world without a playbook. So it certainly disrupted my world, but in that time, I had the great pleasure of shifting from a digital analyst to joining Salesforce in the midst of all of this, and so my world has changed in many ways, and given me a platform to help businesses at a level that I just didn't have access to before.
So you're an evangelist for some. How does it work? I'd heard about the appointment. I mean, it's very good timing, mate, as well, to be honest. Supernatural timing. How does it work? What do you have to do for them? How does it fit together?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about it is when the conversation started, it was the only company that I was talking to. It goes back into 2019, pre-pandemic. It's sort of crazy to think about the conversations and the plans and the ideas before, and then what's happening now. So I'm global innovation evangelist at Salesforce, and what that entails is to look at all of the incredible stories of innovation and also the challenges facing innovation around the world in every sector, and to think deeply about what it is that organizations, what's facing organizations and keeping them from transforming or from innovating, and then also spotlighting the incredible or the extraordinary stories of innovation and transformation in the platforms that I have access to. So I contribute to a lot of publications, still write books, still speaking virtually, and it's really with the intent of inspiring decision makers and executives to think differently about how they operate or how they could operate, to think differently about their customers, to think differently about employees. And so the evangelism is essentially for the world to change. And I get a wonderful opportunity to do that at Salesforce in a non-commercial way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I mean, but these are very strange times, aren't they? I mean, I read something, I think, in the New Yorker, a couple of weeks ago, that we won't remember the time that we were locked down. It will all be a blur because our brains were thinking about the horror and the worst case scenario and all that stuff. And it does seem like, it seems really weird in the last week for me personally. There's it seems like everyone's dehibernated and come out of the woods. Is that something that you're seeing as well? I mean, I know that the peak in the UK may be over, but it's going to be a problem if there's a COVID case in Ethiopia or if there's one in Mauritania. You know what I mean? It's not over at all until it's completely finished. Are you confident, or are you how do you feel?
Man, It's a deep question. One of the things that I didn't mention before was, in addition to being someone who studied digital, I'm also a digital anthropologist. And what that means was pre-pandemic, I was studying how technologies were affecting society and also us as individuals. And that allowed me to take a human-centered approach to all of my work. It suddenly made sense as to why companies needed to change, or why education needed to change, or why healthcare needed reform, because I could see the human being on the other side of all of this disruption and how they were changing. And it gave me a sense of purpose and a sense of direction to connect the dots. So I say that because I've been right up until this last year, I just published a book. It was called Life Scale, and it was specifically looking at how we as human beings had been disrupted, how these things had rewired our brains and our bodies, and not for the better. And it was a journey of how we could then intentionally and mindfully use technology to take control in a more creative direction. Yeah. And I say that because now, with shelter in place or lockdown or quarantine or whatever has you behind closed doors, we use those devices as a form of escapism. We drowned ourselves in Netflix. I saw a funny cartoon the other day that had an individual just sort of slumped on a couch with balloons all over the room, and on the TV screen it said, "Congratulations, you've finished Netflix." We drowned ourselves in distractions as a sense of coping, which is normal. It's human, right? But to your point, actually, I don't know that I agree with the New Yorker. I would actually suggest that this is a somatic marker in our lives that is forever going to be an emotional bookmark, a psychological bookmark that we'll refer to for the rest of our lives. Yeah. That we will remember those extra times that we spent with our family. We will remember the things that we read. We will remember the creativity that we saw online that celebrated just humanity. That is why my work moving forward is forever changed and forever inspired in an entirely new way, like a Control-Alt-Delete moment, that we're going to come out of this not going back to normal. We're going to come out of this seeing that normal was actually part of the problem. And I hope that we're going to come out of this and do and see things differently, and know that those who fight and strive to go back to normal, those are opportunities for us to then build relationships in ways that aren't so that aren't so controversial, that aren't so I guess what's the best way to say it, that aren't so divisive, because certainly coming into this, I don't know that we were on the best path as a society.
Yeah, I think that I've had several conversations where we've used a kind of education metaphor that we've been put into detention by nature for what we've been doing to nature. We've been given 3 months to kind of get our stuff together, and then we'll be allowed back into the garden, the school garden, and we need to behave ourselves. Otherwise, if we don't behave ourselves, we'll be expelled for good. And probably at the moment, no one would miss us too much. You know what I mean? Talking of transformation,
Monty, that is deep. That is
sorry,
deep. I picture right at the side of your head just these beautiful scenes of Mother Nature breathing again,
gambling
and music behind you, sort of triumphantly marking our return to society. Very inspirational, Monty.
Oh well, I'm not so sure about that. But as someone that is well known for transforming companies, pre-coded and probably almost pre-digital, what is it about future technologies? I mean, I've been interested in blockchain, hence the name of this podcast. What's your opinion on blockchain as a transformer or a potential transformer?
Well, as a platform for transparency, it's an incredible technology, and it's also an incredible metaphor for life itself. That coming into this, much of the transactions are still very much, and business itself is still very much black box. We don't get to see what happens behind the scenes, and that's led to some of society's biggest problems. I think the opportunity for any technology that ensures accountability, and also transparency, and also connectedness between all stakeholders is powerful. It's transformative, and I actually think it unlocks a new generation of business and just in general operations that that's going to do good for the world. In fact, I'm surprised that it took so long to gain the type of traction that it's finally getting. I know that early on its attachments to crypto, I don't know, helped it, but now that organizations are really starting, like the true change agents within organizations are starting to see it for what it can do, and what it and what and how people feel on the other side of it is going to be a great accelerant.
No, I think they're run out of case. I mean, I probably made the world's worst ever presentation in Houston about 18 months ago about blockchain, when I tried to, I don't know, compare it with the British horse racing industry, because there were three horses that came over from Arabia in the 17th century, 18th century, sorry, and it all came back to those three horses, and that's why we have a bloodstock industry and all that stuff. So I'm supposed to know a little bit about it. I do now, but lots of stuff that I've seen has been blockchain for good. A lot of the stuff, where charities seem to fritter money away, whether they want to or not. Again, also sourcing of minerals. I think Ford are doing stuff in Congo. Putting a blockchain on lithium for batteries, electric car batteries, and things like that. That's what I think kind of started to transform it, and now I think everyone's caught up. There's, the thing called Trade Lens, which tries to kind of sort out the logistics of shipping. Now, if you can do that, if you could, that's almost trying to do the most difficult thing ever. I mean, you'll get a case for it. But I would take you back to the fact that the association with crypto, would you say that's a bad thing or a good thing?
I don't know that it was a good thing because it introduced the world to an entirely new form of currency and the way to keep ledgers around that currency. I think that's where it was good. I think the crypto industry itself didn't. I used to. I think I came up with a cartoon that was inspired by someone whose name escapes me right now that my friends at Gaping Void helped draw, and it showed how every stage of technology transformation, like .com, social media, and then crypto, how there were these incredible transformative trends, but also it didn't necessarily always bring the best out of society either. It brought a lot of feeders into the profitability standpoint of a lot of this, and so that I think that impaired the optics of blockchain, not necessarily the value of it. It took a while for blockchain to break free from that in its own right. Not that it was held back. It's just that blockchain is much bigger in all of the examples that you just shared. One thing I remember also was I couldn't understand the pushback of it. I remember attending a conference and one of the keynoters, a very prominent speaker, had a slide on stage that said, do you need blockchain? No. And essentially was telling the audience that it was unnecessary. It was hype, that it wasn't worth consideration, of which you and I both know is not true in any form.
Yeah.
But it was just an irresponsible message, I think, to carry out. The other thing that I would say, though, is that blockchain has its enemies. There are individuals or consortiums that do not want that transparency, that do make their money being behind or inside of a black box, and that has led that mindset is actually what blockchain and, quite honestly, politics also have to break through as well. It's because it sort of encourages or can promote corruption behind the scenes, and that's really what blockchain in some senses is fighting against, at the same time demonstrating the ROI and the time to value for any organization to shift in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, middlemen are never going to be happy when they're kind of land is taken, which blockchain seems to want to do. Okay, so crypto has never been a big thing in your life, then, really. I mean, some people refer to you as a master marketeer, and I know that's you particularly like. Where do you think you got that reputation from being a marketeer? It seems that a lot of people I know seem to think you of. I mean, the people that we know that we hang out with, we all know about what we are. I'm just trying to open this up to the audience so you can put the record straight. What you actually are.
Well, I love the fact that I'll get to clear up any confusion directly with our group of friends who I know watch and listen to you, and then beyond that, I think a lot of it has to do going back to the 90s and the early 2000s. I had launched one of the first digital agencies that was meant to help businesses, mostly startups at the time, because they were more, let's just say, creative and desperate to gain market share. It was called FutureWorks, and it was a lab in many ways to experiment with, and this is where the digital anthropologist in me was born, where I studied how people were making decisions differently, how they were influenced differently because of the consumerization of the internet. And reverse engineered essentially what was the new customer journey to then find its new influencers. So helped launch many ways the original digital photography market, and subsequently the online photo sharing market. These are, take case in point, online photo sharing at the time that I helped launch it as an industry by association with companies making the markets, was mostly film at the time. And the idea of putting pictures of your family on the internet was unheard of. It was never going to happen. So in many ways, the accelerating of markets for startups attached me as a marketer. And I accept that. But over the years, really what it was about was understanding how people were changing, how they were making decisions, and then you could reverse engineer that in any number of ways. So, for example, Ashton Kutcher was a partner of mine towards the end of that lab, and we did some really amazing things. We took that same methodology, that same practice, and we helped fight malaria with the United Nations. We helped raise money all over the world for all kinds of charitable causes because we knew what people cared about and how to reach them and how to get them to act. So that, I think, mostly is what led to me post FutureWorks moving into the further study of people, research, becoming an analyst full-time, speaker, author, because I felt that my true calling was to help people beyond just my original reach. And I guess that impact was so great. Thankfully, it gave me that platform to change trajectories and to grow and to help more and more people. But it also stuck with me many years ago that people still kind of see me in that bucket.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
some people.
Yeah. I'm going to stick with digital anthropologist because I like that. That sounds like human AI. I think it sounds so madly fantastic.
At the time there was no such thing as digital anthropology. I mean, this is 97, 98.
That's crazy.
And it's everywhere now. And what if I was such a good marketer, I would have attached myself to that in the early days instead of just simply referring to myself as a digital anthropologist, and taking it beyond the business card in creating a movement for it. That way I could be attached to digital anthropology today. But so it goes.
Well, maybe this will be the start of that, your own personal transformation. I love that. So you did some high rolling there, a bit of a baller with all these people doing great things. I didn't know the ins and outs of that. It's very interesting.
Oh man, it was fantastic. It was surreal in many ways to have a friend and business partner in Ashton Kutcher, and with that came a lot of, having meetings, and Demi Moore walks in to, ask your opinion about how she should launch her next fragrance, or being on the phone with Oprah Winfrey and doing work with Oprah. Oprah even hosted a book signing for me in her store in Chicago. Just crazy and then writing that platform and having that sort of credibility of then getting to do work with Katie Couric and Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins and Shaq and all kinds of it was an unreal time of my life, and one that I'm forever grateful for. And it's since then, though, in many ways, I've sort of retreated from that and focused on where I could have the greatest impact, and that's where the research really took off, taking a human lens. And Monty, I think you could appreciate this, especially when you said like human AI. My work really became everything when for the last 20 years, by putting people in front of anything that we want to do. If we post-pandemic, if we want to understand how shelter in place has transformed someone, not just emotionally or psychologically, but how they make decisions. For example, that's the heart of some of my research right now. I call it Generation Novel, or Generation N, where all of us with this somatic marker have changed in how we shop, how we think, what we value, our definition of status. A lot of this have become subconsciously transformed, and we're now bound by this somatic marker, not just as an age group like centennials or millennials, but as a greater global society. That studying this, I can then make sense of e-commerce. I can make sense of remote work. I can make sense of employee experience or customer experience, or try to make sense. But that human-centered approach is still an uphill battle. I think it's probably going to change coming out of this, but my whole career has been pushing a boulder up a hill to get people to see beyond the novelty of technology or the trendiness of technology, to see what was happening on the other side.
Yeah, I think I coined the phrase. I probably stole it from somewhere, but I think we call ourselves the coronials, right? We are all coronials.
Well, I remember meeting a group of coronials at the playa, but that was a different meeting.
Probably better stop there. Just going to probably finish off with a couple of quick fire questions, Brian. I know it's the start of your day, right? You're in California with your family, right?
Hence the vodka in my coffee cup.
Good man. God, I'd love to join you for a drink right now. I've decided to grow my beard until the pubs open in the UK. There's a glimmer that they might open pubs with gardens in July. There's a lot. I think more people will be killed in a stampede to get to the pub than were probably killed by the virus. As you know this country as well as I do, you know what I mean. I would just go back a little bit to Bitcoin. Do you have you any interest in it? Have you invested in it? What do you think its price will be at the end of the year? Is there anything like that kind of inspires you? Or
it's a thorn in my side, and forever will be, because all of us in the earliest days had the opportunities to just jump all over it, and at the time I did not, and I still have not. And a lot of that was just for pure personal reasons, as a family man, as a single income family, of a single income family. I was very tight with any investment, and in hindsight, some of our friends have become some of the richest people in the world because of their early investments. I still know many miners. We're still doing quite well. So where do I see? I see it, man, in this latest downturn, I thought this is the time where I should just jump all over it.
No, I thought that, yeah.
I see good things for it. And where I've had to take myself psychologically, since I didn't buy in, is I want to see it for what it can do in the good in the world, right? I think that having access to alternative currencies can inspire, like blockchain, new and great opportunities beyond just the financial success conversation that's so tied to it. I remember early on in many, and you've probably seen this too, in any cryptocurrency trade show, it was usually very flashy with Lamborghini and Ferrari giveaways and all of the assets that went along with the richness of it. But I'm bullish on its impact on society.
That's good to know. I mean, I do agree that it's somewhat, when I first found out about it, it was probably very late, about 3 years ago. And I did make a bit, as the price was going up, those long years ago. I kind of back into it again, I think. I just think all this money that's being printed by the Fed and by European and UK banks, it just shows how, I think someone, the writer of Black Swan, said he was getting really irritated by everyone calling the virus a black swan, but he said it was so obviously a fucking white swan, but no one would believe it. We weren't prepared, and it just, as you said earlier, just shows how kind of wobbly we were. If we can get some form of foundation and basis on digital anthropology or humanity behaving itself back in the garden or whatever, then I think things like blockchain are going to be revolutionary. I think that Bitcoin will probably be part of that. I mean, there are certain individuals that get very excited about it. Like I remember the internet, I don't know, before it hit critical mass, there were lots of evangelists then that was slightly weird. I suppose maybe I don't know, maybe it'll repeat itself, but there were a lot of serious people, that some of them have been on this podcast, that are really very enthusiastic about how it can help in the new world. And I don't know if you're one of them, but I think I might be. I have to keep interviewing people like you.
I see good things. I really do. My work moving forward isn't just to help organizations transform, but it's to help people in those organizations help other people thrive in times of disruption, right? This is not the last disruptive event we're going to see in our world. And I think we have a choice in how, it's like the Stoic philosophers, right? You have, or the Stoic philosophy, you can't control the events in the world, but you can control how you react to them. And that takes great mindfulness and discipline in order to be able to react productively. And in times when it's easy to be scared or distracted, this is also an incredible time if we choose to see it as a rebirth, as a growth opportunity, as a chance to unlearn, as a chance to learn. And my work is to inspire that message in all facets of life, because there are people who are fundamentally against that message, which just blows my mind that they don't want to change. They actually want to see the world plummet into further chaos. It's like we have a series of James Bond villains all over the world and no James Bond to counter it.
Maybe they've got a blockchain to connect them all, because I don't know where they came from. I mean, from the Philippines to Brazil to America, I mean, even to this country. Brian, it's an absolute pleasure, man. I think you're an amazing guy. Thank you for your time today. Best of luck to you and your family. I know you have a little one. And I've stopped saying stay safe at the end of broadcast.
I saw your tweet yesterday. I just laughed out.
Sick of saying it, you know what I mean? I've never met you, but stay safe. I'm not saying it anymore. So I'm not saying it to you.
So we'll have it. The only closure I can think of today, besides beyond stay safe, is I will see you in some pub with the biggest glass of champagne in my hand, and I will toast you, and we will rock on.
We will do that, Brian. What a wonderful wave to come back from. Come back to. It's lovely to see you. Thank you, Brian. This is Monty Mumford from Blockspeak from the UK with the wonderful Brian Solis, who is a digital anthropologist and not a marketeer, as well as being an author and a speaker. A most extraordinary man who also missed out on Bitcoin, exclusive world first, although all of his mates are billionaires. I sometimes feel like that as well, Brian. But thank you very much for your time. We'll be back next week. We've got 2 more new wonderful guests, maybe not as wonderful as this one, but don't tell anyone. This is Blockspeak signing off. I think they might be back. Have a good weekend. It feels a little bit normal again. Bye.